Back to up front. Talks between the U.S., Iran, and major world powers resume next week. A deal is supposed to be finalized by late June to curb Iran's nuclear program in return for the West lifting crippling economic sanctions. Last week, President Obama ceded that Congress will have some say in the Iran nuclear accord. We're talking more about this now with Wisconsin Republican U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, who chairs the Senate Committee on Homeland Security. Senator, it's good to have you back on the program.
Well, Mike.
We'll talk Iran in just a moment. Have to ask you about the Marquette University Law School poll. I know you saw the results. It shows in a hypothetical matchup with the guy you beat in 2010, Russ Feingold, that you're trailing by a fair amount. What's your reaction to it? Do you think you're the underdog going into 2016, if indeed he's the candidate?
Well, I'm not worried about it. I'll leave other people to do the evaluation. I think it's pretty much meaningless at this point in time. I'm worried about doing my job. And from my standpoint, my role has been and will be really highlighting issues, trying to lay out the reality of the situation for people, tell Wisconsin the truth. Because there's not enough of that in Washington, D.C. You don't have enough people that are willing to admit the reality of the situation.
You are not a fan of Obamacare. You campaigned on that hard in 2010. Would you expect that if you had this matchup, the Feingold-Johnson matchup, again, that would be a major issue again?
Yeah, of course it would be an issue because people are really being harmed by it. If you don't get the taxpayer subsidy, those are the only people really benefiting from Obamacare. If you're trying to buy Obamacare now, I mean, those types of policies, because of mandated coverages, you're paying double, triple premiums, your out-of-pocket maximums are increasing. A lot of people are being harmed by this, and this is not good for our health care system.
You don't think anything good has come from it, in your opinion?
No, if you are getting the subsidies, the taxpayer subsidies, you're benefiting from it, no doubt about it. Listen, I think Republicans are going to have our own replacement plan that will certainly take care of those individuals. We're a compassionate society. We want to make sure everybody gets good quality health care. This is not the way to do it.
You challenged a part of the Obamacare law and suffered a setback last week. The court said you didn't have legal standing.
It's the legal technicality.
Yeah. So what are you going to do? Are you going to continue to fight it?
We're looking at it. It really is set up perfectly to challenge it in the Supreme Court because now you have a difference in opinion between two circuit courts. We're going to look at it. The real shame here is my case is not being argued based on the merits. If it was, I think it'd be a slam dunk and we would win this. President Obama did not have the legal authority to grant special treatment under Obamacare to members of Congress and the staff. It's just unfair, and President Obama needs to be challenged. I mean, his executive overreach really knows no bounds, and that's a real problem for our constitutional democracy.
I want to talk about an issue that you feel strongly about, and this is the negotiation of this accord with Iran that would supposedly reduce the nuclear threat and at the same time lifting some of the sanctions that have been used against Iran. Are you going to have enough of a say? Is Congress going to have enough of a say on this at the end of the day?
No, I really want people to ask themselves, do you think it's going to be a good idea for Iran to become a nuclear power? Do you think Iran is exporting terrorism around the world? I do. And I believe the American people ought to have input into whether or not this is a good deal or a bad deal. I don't think just one person, President Obama, should be the only American that has the authority to say this is a good deal or a bad deal for America. I think the American people ought to be involved in that decision through their elected representatives. It turns advice and consent on its head. A normal treaty, and I think this rises to the level of a treaty, would have to be affirmatively approved by 2/3 of the Senate, 67 senators. What's happening with this bill, and this is the only thing Democrats will agree to, so I got to respect for Senator Corker what he's trying to do here, but this is some involvement, but minimal involvement. Mike, 34 senators could approve of this deal, a really bad deal, and it would be basically granted a congressional stamp of approval. That is basically reversing standing advice consent on its head. It's not enough. It's just not enough input for the American people.
I think you said that President Obama lost this negotiation before it began.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, UN sanctions dating back, or UN resolutions dating back to 2006 impose sanctions, and the only way those sanctions are going to be lifted is if Iran suspended its enrichment of uranium. Now, President Obama, when he started the negotiation, not only relaxed some sanctions, which, by the way, when you relax sanctions, there's no such thing as a snapback. You can't put those things back in place, so it's very difficult to. And he basically agreed to allow Iran to continue to enrich uranium. Mike, there is no such thing as a peaceful uranium enrichment program in Iran. They're doing it for a weapon. Why else would Iran put up with the isolation, the economic harm by those sanctions if it wasn't for the blackmail that they'll have at their disposal being a nuclear power? So no, President Obama lost those negotiations, gave Iran everything they wanted, the acknowledgement of the right to enrich uranium, and started relaxing those sanctions, and we've put Iran on a path to be a nuclear power.
How are we doing in the war against ISIL, ISIS, whatever you want to call it? Are we being aggressive enough at this moment in time?
I don't think so. There have been some successes, but they're pushing other areas. We need to defeat ISIS, because until they are perceived as losing, they're going to continue to be perceived as winning. They'll continue to potentially inspire people that could cause great harm to the West and to America.
Senator Ron Johnson, the Republican from Oshkosh, good to have you back on the program. We appreciate your time. And we're going to continue the conversation with Senator Johnson. We'll be talking about the latest developments with the Tomah VA. You can see that on the web. Coming up next, we'll continue our discussion of the latest Marquette poll with its director. Why are Governor Walker's numbers down right now? We'll ask when Upfront continues.